Very good morning, everyone. We'll be starting shortly. Could I request you all to please take your seats? A very good morning, everyone, and welcome to this seminar titled Destination Karnataka, U.S.-India Defense Cooperation, Innovation, and Make in India. The US-IBC, that's the US-India Business Council, and the Government of Karnataka have kindly come together on the sidelines of Aero India 23 to have this seminar and discussion in terms of how we can incubate new ideas and hear private sector success stories in Karnataka. To start off, I'd like to first of all invite our esteemed guests onto stage today, starting with Principal Secretary Dr. Selvakumar, who is the Principal Secretary for Commerce Industries. Retired Ambassador Atul Kashyap, who is the President of US-IBC. Mrs. Gunjan Krishna, who is the Commissioner Industries, Government of Karnataka. And our various esteemed panelists for the day, Mr. Anubhav Kumar, who is the Head of Strategy, Boeing India. Mr. Alok Nanda, CTO, GE South Asia, and CEO, GE India Technology Center. Mr. Udyant, who told me to call him Toby, so Mr. Toby Malhotra, CEO, Dynamatics Technologies. Mr. Savyasachi Srinivas, Executive Director, Collins Aerospace. And I'll have the pleasure of moderating the panel for today. My name is Mario Gonzalez. I'm a Managing Director and Partner with BCG, Boston Consulting Group. To start off today's seminar, I'd like to invite Ambassador Atul Kashyap, President of US-IBC, to welcome everyone and also share his introductory remarks.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see all of you. It's a delight to be on this panel, and thank you to the Government of Karnataka for organizing this and for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Let me, first of all, offer greetings on behalf of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and its President, Suzanne Clark, my dear friend and colleague, Nisha Biswal, who couldn't join us today and is back in the States, and all of our 200 members of US-IBC, the U.S.-India Business Council, which includes companies from the United States and India who are dedicated to the prospect of achieving the full potential in U.S.-India relations. I should also mention how delighted I am to be here in Bengaluru. I have a profound personal family connection to Bengaluru. My American grandfather was born here in 1907. My American great-grandfather helped build the Shivanasamudra Dam, which I visited on last week. And my American father, my Indian father, who became my American father, lived in Mysore the last 15 years of his life. So Bangalore feels like home, and it's a real honor to be here for Aero India. Friends, U.S. IBC does a great deal with the people and government of Karnataka, both as an organization and with all of our members. We work together at the Bangalore Tech Summit, and we also have very vibrant representation at Aero India. And we have the great pleasure of working with the Karnataka government to facilitate the strategic and economic and technological convergence between the world's two greatest democracies. And I want to thank the government of Karnataka for being a friendly and welcoming destination for American business and for Indian business, because our members are American and Indian. I also want to give a very special thanks to our members, Dynamatics and Boeing, for their support for this event. I think GE is also here. GE, wonderful to have you. It's a delight to see all of them. Rockwell Collins is here, and all of the other US IBC American and Indian companies that have made a point of exhibiting here at Aero India to demonstrate their commitment to the Indian market and their commitment to ensuring a strong and prosperous and happy India. Believe me when I tell you that for the people of the United States of America, seeing India become as strong and prosperous and as happy as possible is directly in our national strategic interests. We revel and rejoice in the rise of India. We appreciate the unprecedented growth that is happening in this country, and US IBC member companies are delighted to have their opportunity to play a role in ensuring that we lead the world in cutting-edge innovation and best-in-class manufacturing capability and services. Friends, the presence of all of these American and Indian members of US IBC here at Aero India is tangible proof of the power of the private sector to make and deliver the equipment essential to move free societies, to connect them to each other, and to defend them from the threats that everyone in this room knows all too well. I want to point out to you the magnificent flight line of Indian and American aircraft that are out there right now. The F-35s, the F-16s, the C-130s, those aircraft are working to defend the free world on a daily basis. India and the United States have a shared Indo-Pacific vision. We believe in a free and open Indo-Pacific, and Make in India will, I think, be a huge augmentation of the capability of both of our democracies to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific. I also appreciate how much our companies are integrating with each other. I have been all around India, to Hyderabad, to Pune, to Bangalore, and other places where American and Indian companies are working together to build and design, operate, deploy the platforms that are going to help ensure a free and prosperous Indo-Pacific in the future. I will tell you, however, that nothing about this is easy. I spent 20 years working in the US government to help build the US-India relationship. And every day we have to talk to each other in a way that the other person can understand. One of the jokes we used to say is that we all speak perfect English between Washington and New Delhi, but we always seem to have a perfect misunderstanding of each other because of our shared English language. And so it's very important in this new era of US-India strategic convergence in the Quad, economic convergence in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, technological convergence in the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, which we launched at the Chamber 2 weeks ago in Washington with Ajit Doval, Jake Sullivan, and Gina Raimondo. It's important, ladies and gentlemen, that we learn to understand each other. And I say this to our bureaucracies, I say this to our companies, I say this to our political leaders, that we have an aspiration toward convergence in the Indo-Pacific. Indeed, I would say we have a responsibility toward convergence in the Indo-Pacific. If we don't get it right between the United States and India, the two greatest democracies on earth, then systems and ideologies that are inimical to our values and interests may drive the paradigm of the future of the 21st century. Friends, I will tell you, we cannot allow that to happen. Our children, our grandchildren expect us to figure out how to talk to each other, how to understand each other. And so my respectful appeal to both of our systems, both leaders and government and companies, industries, is to learn to understand each other and listen to what is being said. Because sometimes we hear things that are very polite in both directions because we're friends, but we're not understanding what the other person is saying. So my respectful appeal is that we learn better how to talk to each other and that we work through the difficult issues in order to develop a really thriving defense co-production, co-innovation, co-design ecosystem between the two greatest democracies on earth. Friends, I think that the Aero India show and all of the displays shows how much excitement and activity there is going on in India. I've been in Mumbai, Pune, Bengaluru, Mysore, Bandipur, and I'm going to Delhi. India is bursting with opportunity. It is bursting with growth. New metro systems, new expressways, airports absolutely full, hotels full. This is a country on the move. If you think about how well India survived the pandemic, hundreds of millions of people receiving help in terms of food, cooking gas, drinking water, all of the basic needs, vaccines. India has shaken off the pandemic and is powering ahead. It has magnificent demographics. It has the largest scalable human talent on earth. It has an absolutely bright future ahead of it. The Prime Minister talks about these years of the Amrit Kal, and I think he's right, that by 2047, India may be completely transformed. Friends, you will find no greater friend than the United States of America and our companies and our people as we build the relationship with India. So let me encourage everybody to continue to rededicate their efforts toward achieving the brightest possible goal for U.S.-India relations. We are in a shared ecosystem of trust. We should build the free world supply chain that helps protect and defend free peoples in a very perilous geostrategic climate. We should optimize every element of U.S.-India relations. We should work with states like Karnataka, a wonderful state where I have so much personal fondness and affection and family ties. And we should optimize the relations at every level of human endeavor. I've always said that we should hit $500 billion in trade between the United States and India. I have a friend who's on my board who says, make it $1 trillion. And I like that optimism. I think between our two countries, everything is possible. So let me place a vision in front of you, maybe two visions. One vision is something I've held dear since my father moved to Mysore. And by the way, might I say, I remember coming to Bangalore in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I've always wondered when we would put an American consulate here. So speaking as a private citizen, I have to wonder, when will we have an American consulate here to bind our two countries even closer together? We already have a nonstop flight between Bangalore and San Francisco. When are we going to have a nonstop flight between Bangalore and New York City? What can we do to bring Bengaluru and America closer together? So I'll leave that thought with you. And the other thought I would have is, when are we going to see a major, advanced, best-in-world fighter aircraft or defense platform on display at Aero India, flying around in the skies above Bangalore, that is a reflection of the complete and perfect merger of the American and Indian defense ecosystems to make the best kind of defense for free people all around the world. With those thoughts, I'll conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Atul, for that wonderful opening. It's so wonderful that you consider Bangalore to be a second home. And it's really great to see the ever-growing ties between the US and India on defense cooperation, especially signified by the F-35 display here at Aero India. We completely share your vision, by the way. I'm sure all of us travel extensively to the US. We would all love to have a consulate here, so fingers crossed on that. With that, I'd like to invite Dr. Selvakumar to share his keynote address for the day. Dr. Selvakumar is the Principal Secretary, Commerce Industries, and he will address the gathering now. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My greetings to Ambassador Atul Keshav, Mr. Anubhav Kumar, Mr. Alok Nanda, Mr. Udayant Malhotra, Mr. Savyasachi Srinivas, Ms. Gunjan, and all the delegates who are gathered here today. I thank you all for taking out your time and gracing us with this esteemed presence. As we all know, Karnataka has a rich history of being at the forefront of innovation for aerospace and defense in India. Karnataka has also been at the forefront of the U.S.-India defense corridor with a number of American investments in aerospace and defense manufacturing and research and development, including Boeing, Raytheon, GE, and Honeywell. These initiatives are further supported by the new Karnataka Aerospace and Defense Policy of 2022 to 2027, which aims to attract investments and establish Karnataka as the preferred destination for aerospace and defense manufacturing. The state has also expertise in activities across the value chain in the sector. Research and design. Karnataka is the only state to house country's top research and design institutions like DRDO, ISRO, HAL, etc. Karnataka has set up Center of Excellence in partnership with Dassault Systems to provide industry-ready manpower in the recent years. Karnataka is home to 70% of the supplier base for India's A&D industry. The state has also a strong base of 2,000 SMEs that carry out subcontracting work. Further, we are seeing cutting-edge innovation driven by the startups in the aerospace and defense sector in the recent years. Some of these include Bellatrix, Nopo Nanotechnologies, Pixel, and Astrom. In the changing geopolitical dynamics, the opportunities and the way forward for both private organizations and governments are immense. As we think for tomorrow, it is very crucial to keep sustainability at the heart of our strategies. Today, we will listen to our esteemed speakers to speak on their perspectives of how the industry and Karnataka would look like in 10 years. I am confident that the changing geopolitical dynamics and Karnataka's conducive and holistic ecosystem backed by a robust policy will provide a great opportunity for American companies to set up their operations here and contribute to Karnataka's growth story. I once again welcome you all to build in Karnataka for the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Selvakumar. As you rightly said, Karnataka is a powerhouse for defense exports. We are 70% of India's total defense exports today. And we are sure, sir, under your guidance that we will continue to grow, in terms of defense and industrial development. With that, we'll move on to a panel discussion with our other esteemed guests on stage. I just wanted to set some context for the panel discussion before we hear from our various panelists. As I'm sure you're all aware, the Indian defense manufacturing sector, which is currently a $12 billion industry, has been experiencing very strong tailwinds in the last few years, which have been driving very strong growth. Some of the factors behind these tailwinds are India's $130 billion defense modernization push, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the push towards defense self-reliance, a strong push on indigenization and hence an import embargo on over 300 items, an increase in defense FDI, a limit up to 74%, restructuring of supply chains and the entire push on China Plus One, and of course a push on advanced manufacturing and non-kinetic defense technologies. As the defense sector in India experiences strong growth, Indo-US cooperation has been one of the cornerstones in unleashing this potential. We are seeing various collaborations among private players from the US and India in the sector today, both in design development as well as in the production space. Just a few examples: the collaboration between Lockheed Martin and Tassel to produce the F-16 Block 70 in India. Tata and Boeing have also announced a joint venture to build fuselages for the AH-64 Apache helicopter. And Honeywell and HAL have tied up to manufacture high-voltage turbo generators. However, there is opportunity to probably do even more, especially as we think about the defense offset obligations, which are now upwards of $1 billion, creating a massive opportunity for our Indian ecosystem. And of course, our role in the global defense exports. Today, we are about a $1.5 billion exporter. The Honorable PM has set a target of at least tripling this by 2025. Hence, with this as a background, today we will discuss, number one, the evolving global aerospace and defense supply chain. Secondly, the opportunities that it's creating within India. And thirdly, and most specifically, the role that Karnataka can play going ahead in this sector. So with that, we'll move to the panel discussion. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you. So with that, it'll be great to hear from our various panelists on your thoughts. Each of you have a hand mic in front of you, so kindly do use the same. Maybe to start off with, I'll go to Mr. Anubhav Kumar. The US-Indian defense and security relationship continues to grow, aided by political commitments, as well as, of course, converging security concerns in the Indo-Pacific. With these sort of geopolitical dynamics at play, what sort of shifts in supply chain have you been seeing in the last few years? And more importantly, where does India factor into all of these global dynamics and supply chain shifts?
Yeah, okay. So, I think it's a very pertinent question. A couple of things just from Boeing perspective, before the term got coined as Atmanirbhar, we were already working Atmanirbhar for many years, right? It's just that now it becomes easier for us to communicate our story. And Karnataka, for that matter, has been really pivotal to our whole Atmanirbhar from a supply chain perspective. And I have, for example, Toby over here, who is one of our key partners through this growth journey that we have, where Karnataka again has played an important role. So as Boeing continues to deepen its presence and broaden its horizon, right now we are working with upwards of 300 plus suppliers in India. We do a sourcing of upwards of $1 billion from India. And most important part is, which just demonstrates the commitment that we have in India, that out of those 300 plus suppliers, close to 30% of them are MSMEs. So, it's easier to still work, and, with all due respect, but if I'm working with a Tata, they have established processes, they have scale. But if I'm working with an MSME, that requires a lot of effort and a lot of pull from the organization. That's what we are investing in. So that is really one of the key pillars of growth that has been there. And I'm happy to report that a lot of MSMEs, when we started, one of our suppliers used to be a tea supplier. And that's a good story that we continue to say, where from tea he moved on to aerospace. And now he has been, he has won multiple awards, Supplier of the Year award. Toby has been winning multiple Supplier of the Year awards from a Boeing perspective. So that, when you're competing at that level, then there are, upwards of 10,000 plus suppliers. That's just one part of it. With the geopolitical shift, I think, there is a significant, given the shared values that India and US share, based on the, the oldest and the largest democracies, there is going to be a more significant thrust from an India perspective to make it a more resilient supply chain. And there are multiple, both on the commercial and the defense side, where we are deepening our supply chain in India, I want to give an example. I want to give a shout out to Government of Karnataka and Kunchan over here, because when COVID struck and all of us were struggling that how do we really navigate through that, because the airplane manufacturing has to go on. Government of Karnataka was a call away. It was not files, it was a call away to ensure that the supply chain did not break. So even during COVID times, our supply chain continued, and that just demonstrated back to the US that India is a country and Karnataka is a state which can be trusted to ensure that there is a resilient supply chain that gets built. So while we continue to deepen, while we increase our supplier base, while we increase the sourcing that is going to be there from India, there is also a significant role that state governments and local governments continue to play to ensure that we are upping the game. So, the future is just enormous and significant for us as we see in the emerging geopolitical scenario. Yeah?
Thank you, Anubhav. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think two things that really caught my attention. One, the entire upliftment you're doing of the MSMEs. I think that's so important, for the country and specifically for the state. So, we really appreciate and thank Boeing for the role you're playing in this. And secondly, I think, like you rightly called out, the role that the Commerce Industries Department played during COVID in just ensuring that we are providing resilient supply chains to the world really needs to be applauded. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Sabyasachi, I'll come to you next. Like I'd mentioned while setting the context, the defense offset obligation is something that keeps increasing year on year. We are upwards of $1 billion today. But there are still challenges companies face in terms of actually being able to discharge this obligation. One, what sort of challenges do you see? And secondly, what can really be done either from policy or from a framework perspective to make the defense offset discharge more favorable for the country?
No, thank you for that question. So I'm going to take this as a strategic angle and maybe a couple of tactical angles. Strategically, let's even, and this is my personal view, ask the question, does even offset even work for a country like India? Right? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. We are not a country where aerospace and defense is at its infancy. We have a lot of capability that has already been built over decades with the likes of HAL. I mean, you see today Tejas flying, you've seen so many of the helicopters flying, all coming out of HAL. We are talking about Make in India, we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, and I think that's the right place we ought to be. It's not so much about discharging offsets, creating jobs, it's actually building what we are acquiring right here in India. So that's more the strategic angle, and I think we are headed in the right direction. In terms of why it's working, it's a complex question. There are multiple reasons for why it's not working. From a US company, a lot of times, we have challenges with bringing technologies into India. Ambassador Kashyap just talked about, some challenges there. ITAR is one of the concerns that I would bring up in terms of technology transfer. IP protection is another area that I would bring up. But even in terms of, offset discharge, one of the most important parts is your offset partner a credible partner? Can they actually do this work? We have seen a lot of offset partners who become IOPs are unable to discharge their commitments because they don't have any credibility. While, aerospace and defense is not an easy space to get into. It is very complex, it's got high entry barrier, and the requirements and the quality requirements are the top notch, right? At the end of the day, you're talking about keeping people safe at 40,000 feet in sky when it's a commercial airliner, and same about the war fighters. So the requirements are very stringent. So having credible partners is very, very key. The last point I would say is, again, a tactical point. We have a lot of companies like Boeing, Airbus, Raytheon Technologies, Collins Aerospace. The recent shift in the defense acquisition policy bars us from being eligible for offsets. And I don't think that's the right way to look at, these are companies that have majority Indian employees. We are registered in India, and as such should be eligible. Till the 2017 DPP, wholly owned subsidiaries were eligible, and they were discharging offsets. As of 2020 DAP, that's not the case anymore. So request the government of India and also ask the government of Karnataka to push this and sort of bring back the 2017 policy where wholly owned subsidiaries were eligible for offsets, because we bring a lot of capability. The Boeings and the Collins Aerospaces of the world are bringing a lot of capability into India, into Karnataka, into Bangalore, and I think we need to continue to make that happen. So, that's the answer to your question.
Thank you, Sabyasachi. I think two very good points you made. One, don't focus on offsets, focus on indigenization, focus on Make in India. I think that's a brilliant point, and potentially in the future, focus on Make for the world as well. Right? And I think your second point is also very valid, because wholly owned subsidies are finally creating jobs as well. So why should they be treated differently? A very good call out, and I think that's something definitely from a government of Karnataka perspective we should put up a representation on. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Mrs. Krishna, next I'll come to you. Look, PPP, public-private partnership, has played a major role in accelerating certain sectors such as infrastructure and energy. What sort of role do you think PPP has to play within the defense sector? And secondly, what really needs to be done from a framework or policy perspective to make PPPs work in the defense sector?
Good morning, everyone. In fact, the entire story of the aviation and aerospace and defense in Karnataka is a story of public-private partnership. 1940, when HAL was started, it was started by a private entrepreneur, Hiralal Walchand, and it was done at that time with the partnership with an American company, where they were getting the technology. Now, to cut what the entire ecosystem of Karnataka has developed initially by the public sector enterprises. We have the HAL, BEL, DRDO, ISRO that got set up. And then we had these all entire gamut of MNCs and Indian MNCs that have taken this space. Now we have a lot of opportunity. The opportunity comes in the form of, like infrastructure. We are looking at in the new aerospace and defense policy, how we can have various clusters. Bangalore is known for its clusters. We need to go outside. Mysuru can be the second cluster. Chamarajanagar can be. Tumkuru, in any case, HAL has come out with the helicopter. The entire initiative is taking place. So there are a number of these 5 clusters that we can look at, where the private sector can come in, look at taking up as a park. Number of companies come and take in a park, take the park, develop it, and get in your suppliers, get yourself. So that's one methodology that we can look at it. The second methodology can be that we can work very closely with the companies to set up Center for Excellences that we talked about with GE in the morning itself. We can look at setting up testing centers that could be done with the help of, say, HAL, working with these common facilities that can be set up. So that can be the second methodology that we can use, a lot of. And entirely training, skilling, this is another opportunity that we should look at it. The principal secretary here also heads the skill development department, and we can look at it that how, because in future we will require trained manpower, and that is where again a lot of opportunity that we can provide in the PPP space. And I think sky is the limit, and it has taken 80 years for our ecosystem to develop in Karnataka, and I think time has come that we should leverage, and all the companies should leverage it, to grow more.
Thank you, madam. I think like you rightly said, we need to think of PPP broader than just projects and programs. And I love the twist you gave to it, which is saying think of it as parks, think of it as COEs, think of it as skilling. There's so many different dimensions to PPP, and that's really a wonderful broader way of thinking of the entire opportunity. Alok, I'll come to you next. Look, India has multiple fundamentals in place to fuel growth of the defense sector, right? Whether it's the strong local demand, the sort of skills that we have, the ecosystem of local suppliers, and many other things. In your view, what really are the enablers required to fuel and really accelerate this entire defense sector growth?
Yeah, this is an awesome question because, with all humility, I would say this is our time. You heard all the esteemed speakers talked about various aspects. You started off with few things, but there are several things in our ecosystem that make us a force to reckon with. And we are not only competing now within ourselves in the industry in India, we are competing with anybody in the world. And I'm certain that with all the things that all the speakers talked about, this is the time for India to grow and prosper. So this is something which I truly believe in even if we do nothing, the stars are aligned now with everything that has happened. But if we do something, your question is around acceleration. And I'll make 2 points where we can actually accelerate this growth. One of the points is we have, we have a great startup ecosystem, we have a great industry system, we have great academic institution system, we have brilliant national labs with some of the tremendous talent. I come from a national lab now. I'll lead an engineering team for an MNC, but I grew up in DRDO. There is so many good things, but all of them work in isolation. We spend a lot of money in India to all these institutions, but we don't have the trust of bringing them together and giving industry the charge to actually lead that development. Today, if government gives money for science development or for a low TRL research, they would make industry a partner of an academic institution but give the money to the academic institution. Now, academic institutions are not designed for program management. They have great talent and they can do good research, but who will industrialize it? Why can't the industry take the lead like it is done anywhere else in the world? That accelerates the development tenfold. If you look at GE's innovation model, if we do research in US or when we do research in Europe, it's always a large portion of it, especially for low TRL research, runs on government money. And it is not that Government of India doesn't spend the money. Government of India spends the money but gives it to an academic institution, but does not involve Indian industry or an MNC which has strong roots in India to do that. I think that's a very important aspect that we are missing on. We are spending the money, but we are spending in isolation. We need to bring all the entities together. We'll get a much larger return on investment. That's my one point. The second point I have is I'll pick on the offsets discussion that you were having. Why only subsidiaries? Why not reinvestment within the industry itself? What is the problem in an industry making money? Right? As long as it enables growth of the country, it provides jobs, it takes ownership of development. If it's our offset commitment and we do it to grow, to spur growth of our own company in India, I don't think there should be a problem. If we make it too constrained, if we have to depend on other partners, if we have to do so many other things, then we can't own the development, and then there is a hesitation because the money is going but nothing else, nothing is coming out. So I would say we have lots of these opportunities where we are hesitating to trust the industry to take the step forward and own the growth. I think that would accelerate the growth in India tremendously. But I'm a firm believer, stars are aligned, we have everything in place. This is our time, this is the time of India for growth. And I think we are fortunate that we are part of the industry, Indian industry at this point in time where like everything is going in a direction where we can stand proudly and say, okay, we are the best and we compete with anybody else in the world.
Thank you, Alok. I think some very valid points. And it's so important, like you said, that we are anyway on a natural path of growth, right? But it's important for us to not sit back and just ride that growth. And I think the 2 points you raised on industry academia partnerships and also how industry through reinvestment can really drive this entire sector development, very important. And thank you for sharing those thoughts. Toby, I'll come to you next. You've been an integral part of Karnataka's growth and contribution to the defense sector. Karnataka came out with its first A&D policy in 2013. And as you'll be well aware, launched A&D policy 2.0 in 2022. How do you see this latest policy launch contributing to development of the sector and investment in the sector, both on the design development side as well as on the manufacturing side?
Okay, so firstly, I moved to Bangalore 38 years ago when I was 20 years old. And I started working in a small SME business in Pina industrial area, which was the largest industrial area in South Asia. So, to begin with, Karnataka has always been good. And it has this incredible ethos of great culture, respect for science, and a openness to all of the world. It's not parochial. What we are seeing now is good becoming better and seeking to be the greatest. It's a cyclical snowballing that we are seeing now, where you have successive policy makers working very closely with the private sector in bringing the best ideas. See, what happens is in parts of India, work is work and then people go home and they live their lives. Bangalore and Karnataka has a very vibrant social ecosystem. And there's no wall between private businessmen and government and artists. It's a very vibrant exchange of ideas that takes place. So in that, if you really look at where specifically the new policy helps us, it is in the best of hard infrastructure. You're seeing the Aero park around the Bangalore airport. You're seeing a doubling of it north of the Bangalore airport. It is unparalleled in India. In fact, it's the third largest FDI destination globally for aerospace and defense, as indicated by the Financial Times. So that shows one thing. The second is skilling. I mean, and PPPs. So the Devanali ITI it's managed by our company, and it's India's first aerospace ITI. So it's a very unique thing of a government asset being managed by a private sector, churning out aerospace workers, not for Dynamatic, but for all our industry, including competitors. And we don't see them as competitors, because in this ecosystem, today we are sole supplier of major aerostructures for the Chinook worldwide, for the P-8, every P-8 produced, we are the sole producer of the power and mission cabinets. We're producing aerostructures for the F-15EX, which is not sold in India. It's global best value delivery out of Bangalore, and we are benefiting from that. If you see the world's largest, can you see this? Yeah, this is much better. Sorry, if you see the world's largest selling helicopter, the Bell 407, the entire fuselage is built by us in Bangalore and is exported. It's 100 helicopter ship sets every year. We just inaugurated a helicopter facility in Tumkur, which will produce 30 helicopters a year. It's the largest helicopter factory in India. But quietly in Bangalore, you have an unknown company quietly exporting 100 fuselages every year. That's what's happening in Bangalore. And again, it's not us alone as a company, it's the entire ecosystem of 250 MSMEs that supply us, 3,000 workers, the skilling, government enablement of what we have, 1,000, 800, 900 aircraft every year, all the Airbus aircraft, the flap track beams are all built in the same company. And why do they want more? During the pandemic, I think all of us talked about it. It took 5 days for this government to make aerospace and defense designated as a essential service. So the entire ecosystem was enabled. And as a consequence, with good performance, we got Airbus's Global Sustainability Award last year. We were spotlighted as Boeing's most resilient supplier in the world. It couldn't have happened as an individual company. It was all enabled by our state, our ecosystem, the government, and the ability of the people here. So I just think if you take skilling, and finally, we brought in PLIs for the first time. We've never benefited from PLIs. So we actually have to read the policy and see if we can get some benefit. Because what we built in the last 35 years, I will hazard a guess here, but in the next 36 months, we will double that business. What we've taken, and it's not our success, it's the success of Karnataka.
We'll sign an MOU right away.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toby. I think some wonderful points you raised, but the biggest call out from all that you said was Karnataka was already on the road from good to great, right? But this really helps Karnataka go beyond great. And that's what this policy 2.0 will help to drive. And very excited to hear about your personal contribution and plans also going forward. Look, it's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. I think some really rich ideas came out from this. I want to do one round of visioning across all the panelists before we conclude. And the common question to all the panelists, if you were having the same panel discussion 10 years from now, what do you think each of you would be saying on two fronts? Number one, where would you see the Indian defense sector 10 years from now? And secondly, more importantly, what role would you see Karnataka playing 10 years from now? So it'll be good if we can hear from each of you. Sabyasachi, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. Clearly, I think from an aerospace and defense perspective, India is headed in the right direction. I think we will emerge as a very powerful player in the global aerospace and defense market. Alok said just things are just lining up, right? The stars are aligned. I think this is a great time to be part of this industry. And I feel with the support of both the central government as well as the government of Karnataka, we have a very, very positive future ahead of us. So clearly from a defense sector, very, very positive. As far as government of Karnataka and where we see Bangalore or Karnataka going, I'm not talking as a Bengaluru Huduga, which I am, but I still feel like, just talking about Collins Aerospace, we have 5,000 employees in India, 4,000 of them in Bangalore. And I can tell you it has not happened by accident. It is not that we've, looked at the Indian map and said, okay, this is where we ought to be. There has been a lot of support that we have received from the government. It takes vision from the leadership as well as execution from the bureaucracy to make it happen. You talk to our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Basavaraj Bommai, and he will say, my dream is that a plane is built in Bangalore, right? And I have heard him say this multiple times, one during our inauguration of our facility itself. He's like, we have all the ingredients to make a commercial civil aircraft in Bangalore. And I think you need that kind of vision from the senior most leadership. And then I see that reflected across the leadership with Minister Nirani, who's not here, but again, very passionate about this space. And then, bureaucracy, Gunjanji is here, Ramana Reddy ji, and, Selva Kumar ji. Everybody is very sort of passionate and supportive of, growing the ecosystem. We have recently acquired a land in KIADB, and we have built the phase 1 of our factory. We are very quickly moving to develop our second phase of the factory, which will not only bring in significant amount of jobs in the state, but I keep focusing on it's not about jobs anymore, it's about capability. We will bring in significant amount of capability to the state, and the bureaucracy and the state leadership has been key to that. So sky's the limit in terms of where we are headed, both from an industry and especially in the state of Karnataka. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabyasachi. Anubhav?
Yeah, so I think the vision is really to see how more and more R&D can be done out of India. The HALs of the world, how can really that be percolated also to the private industry? How, more and more private industry is really able to develop its own deep tech and really move from components to platforms and assemblies. That's really one huge ambition, not only as a Boeing employee, but also as an Indian. The other thing that I really see is that Boeing has a 90% market share 10 years down the line in the commercial airplane. But it's really about technology and more R&D coming out of Indian companies. From a government of Karnataka and Karnataka perspective, we are coming up with the largest site outside of US, close to the airport, which will house upwards of 4,000 resources, engineering, deep tech, analytics. My vision is that can we really change the lever and also include manufacturing, MRO as part of that system? That's really a vision. where other than engineering technology, there is more of manufacturing and MRO that can be done eventually out of Karnataka, which is Boeing's own, work. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you, Anubhav. Toby?
I absolutely echo both the earlier panelists. I think all those visions not shouldn't be dreams. I think they will come true and they will happen. I think in 10 years, Karnataka alone should be one of the top 30 economies of the world. Forget as a nation, but Karnataka, because it's it's bigger than a lot of states worldwide in terms of pure technology. And I'd like to say we are neighbors with Boeing's tech center. We actually have Boeing manufacturing on our site, and we have on our land a runway access. So perhaps we'll have the same dream, building an aeroplane together. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Krishna?
I say amen to whatever has been said by my three colleagues here. What we would want for Karnataka in particular is that we are already the undisputed leader in India, but we should, and we are also in the world over, we are the top three ecosystem that is getting FDI, but our story should be not just Bangalore centric. I think we need to, aerospace and defense becomes a part of each and every major city of Karnataka. So what we are looking at, Mysuru, Chamarajanagar, Tumkuru, Mangalore, and all of these areas become a major hub, and they have rich engineering, R&D talent pool that you look at. For manufacturing, it's my dream that we should be able to build an aircraft here fully. So that is something definitely. And in defense, like we are going into the path of Atmanirbhar Bharat and indigenization, and we should become undisputed leader when it comes to coming from Make in India. So that's what I would say.
Thank you.
When I was a kid, I used to visit my uncle and auntie's house in Newport News, Virginia, which was just next to Langley Air Force Base. And every day when the F-4s and the F-15s used to fly overhead during the really dark days of the Cold War, we would say to each other, that's the sound of freedom right there. And we could hear it right here in the hall, the sound of freedom. So friends, everyone's been very ambitious and painted a great vision. I want to take us back a little bit. American companies have been in Bangalore, in Karnataka, in the then princely state of Mysore since 1901. Think about that, 120 plus years of partnership with this country. Companies that bring the best technology, the best managerial skill, the best know-how, the highest level of ethics and transparency, and a sincere desire to see not only the United States succeed and be profitable and prosperous and happy, but to see other great countries succeed. India is a truly great country. It is the world's greatest democracy. I like the vision of building aircraft together in Karnataka. I love the ambition in the room. I want to thank the government of Karnataka for, I think, creating an enabling business environment. Our member companies at USIBC ask for nothing more than a level playing field, ease of doing business, coherent regulations, and facilitating sort of government initiatives. And they're getting that in Karnataka. So I'm very ambitious. I've already talked about building the next generation of fighters here and maybe even having a consulate. I hope that that dream comes true. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Everybody's said such nice things. I'm already having goosebumps. If all these things happen. But a plane can't fly without an engine. I think all of you know that. So hopefully we complete the cycle. We not only have the aircraft, but we also have an engine. We have made great progress in creating a supply chain in India. Hopefully that develops in the next 10 years and takes to a place where we have the whole design life cycle and we can have not only a plane but also an engine that flies that plane done in India. So that would be my vision.
Thank you all for that wonderful, visioning of what 10 years later will look like. I heard deep tech, I heard platforms, I heard manufacturing and MRO, engineering, aerospace defense beyond Bangalore. and of course, I think a shared vision of building an aircraft and an engine in Bangalore. So thank you all for such a wonderful discussion. I think to wrap up today's seminar, Atul, I'll request you if you could share a few concluding remarks, and with that we conclude. Thanks.
I don't know what I can add, except to say that a friend of mine, a guy named Rick Rosso, who is a great friend of India, put a poll out on Twitter about a week or two ago. And he said, he asked his followership, he said, how many states in India do you think are sincerely trying to attract foreign investment and are taking all of the steps necessary to try to make in India and attract, foreign capability? And he gave various numbers. He said, 25 and above, 20 to 25, 15 to 20, 10 to 15, 0 to 5 to 10, 0 to whatever. And the answer came back from his followership that there were about 5 to 10 states in India that are really sincerely trying to draw in foreign investment to make in India for the prosperity and future happiness of the Indian people. Friends, I can tell you absolutely beyond any shadow of a doubt, Karnataka is in that 5 to 10. In fact, I would say it's in the top 5, and I think from the perspective of American companies who have hundreds of thousands of high-wage employees in this state, it must be number 1. And certainly it's number 1 in my heart, so I'm delighted to be here, and I really thank you, Government of Karnataka, Honorable Chief Secretary, for organizing this, and we really wish you the very best of luck in everything that you're trying to do, Madam Minister, and all of our companies as well, who are trying so hard to ensure the future happiness and greatness of India. And with the sound of freedom in the air, we'll call it to a close. Thank you.